Sorry, guys. Technical difficulties. Okay. Hello, salam, shalom. Be the change you wish to see in the world. That's a famous saying by Mahatma Gandhi. We all know who this guy is, right? Hitler led countries to fight in World War II. But the reality of stories were never real to me until this past summer when I had gone to Tools for Peace, Learning to Be Peacemakers conference in Caux, Switzerland. Meeting with veterans of war and hearing stories of how lives had to be rebuilt after the impact of the last World War had affected my heart and gave me new energy to be stronger in striving for peace. CO was established based on this premise. We don't want to have another war, said one longtime attendee of the annual conference. Year after year, actually I'll show you a few pictures of CO at the top of a mountain in beautiful Switzerland. This is the conference center where we sat, listened to speakers. Year after year, beauty pageants and myself declare our desire for world peace. I'm not in there. Step aside. But the story of Irene Laurie had really moved my heart. She was in the French Renaissance during World War II. She wanted every German dead and their country wiped off the map of Europe. And only a few years later, German and French leaders said that she did more than any other individual to reconcile the countries after hundreds of years of enmity. She was from Marseille, daughter of a businessman. She used to steal her father's socks to give them to poor workers. She became a nurse and married the pupil of a French communist leader. She was in the resistance in Marseille. After her son had been tortured by the Gestapo, her hatred grew more for the Germans. At the war's end, she was elected MP and Secretary General of the Socialist Women of France. As such, she attended a conference in Switzerland aimed at restoring the unity of Europe. She was horrified to find out that the Germans were going to be there. And at once she packed her bags. She didn't want to stay. She wanted to have nothing to do with the Germans. And then someone asked her, how do you hope to rebuild Europe without the Germans? And so she stayed on for 3 nights of sleepless turmoil. She tried to let go of this blinding hate, but it was hard. It wasn't until the Germans actually came to her during that conference and they said, we're sorry we didn't act soon enough and we didn't stand up strong enough to Hitler. This broke her down. It broke down her hatred, and she apologized to the Germans, not for her resistant fight, but for having desired their total destruction. She went to Germany, addressed the provincial parliaments, and spoke to hundreds and thousands in meetings and on the radio. Because of her prominence, Germans went to France and apologized to the French people on the radio and in the press for what had happened during the war. In the next years, several hundred leaders of the new Germany met with the French opposite numbers in Co, and the tide of reconciliation was in motion. Anyone have a $10 bill? If you look at the back of it, here's a story closer to home. This is an old veteran you'll see standing at attention near the Ottawa War Memorial, and his name is Robert Metcalf. He died in 2008 at the age of 90. That he managed to live to that age is rather remarkable, given what had happened in the Second World War. Born in England, he was one of the 400,000 members of the British Expeditionary Force sent to the mainland, where they found themselves facing the new German warfare technique. He was treating a wounded comrade when he was hit in the legs by shrapnel. En route to hospital, his ambulance came under fire from a German tank, which then miraculously ceased fire. Evacuated from Dunkirk, 2 of the sister ships with them were sunk. Recovered, he was sent to the Allied campaigns in North Africa and Italy. En route, his ship was chased by a German battleship. Sent to the Italian campaign, he later met his wife, lived in Ottawa actually, and well, they got married, lived in Ottawa. He wrote a book at the age of 80. He died last year. That's him again. People have been to Co before, many well-known and famous people, as well as many grassroots organizers of peace projects. With Queen Noor of Jordan amongst the guests, Prince Al Hassan bin Talal of Jordan delivered his keynote address, which was widely applauded by eminent Jews in the audience. In his closing, he spoke about how we need to take responsibility rather than apportioning blame. He spoke about a conversation he had with a well-known Israeli politician who said, "We are surrounded by enemies," when he turned to him and said, "Well, we are surrounded by friends. How do you like that?" And then there was laughter. In the room of people, you were no more a leader of Pakistan, nor a politician from Israel, nor a media rep from Germany. In Co, you are just people. You share a common goal for peace, and you learned that there were no more walls, but you were the one who wanted to be first in breaking down those walls. Leaders of Pakistan and India also came together this past summer and held their off-the-record discussions on human security to discuss various issues that divided these two countries who've been waging at war for several decades. Muslim Europeans also came together this past summer to discuss issues that have caused great divide in integration and inclusion. It was the first time Muslims and non-Muslims came together at Co to hear the other side and work towards a goal of greater understanding. People like Tariq Ramadan, Salman Ahmed of the Junoon rock band Pakistan, Imam Ajmal Masroor of the UK, Imam Salimi of Toronto, have attended and spoken at Co. Why Co? The president of Initiatives of Change, previously Moral Rearmament, Raj Mohan Gandhi, who happens to be Mahatma Gandhi's grandson, helped shed scale from our eyes the conflicts between Jews, Muslims, Christians, and Hindus. Co, a picturesque mountaintop resort, had been the venue of a post-war rapprochement for Germans and French. Co was also a haven for the Jewish refugees during World War II, where many of them stayed for their safety. And Co had housed as many refugees as they could. And there is a plaque there today to honor and remember those Jews who were there, and also those who couldn't enter Switzerland during that war. Co was built to promote peace, trust, and intercultural dialogue to prevent conflicts. It's a place where we not only discussed issues, but we worked together, played together, and lived together. As one of the organizers there said, if we want to talk peace, we have to live peace as well. So we played games, entertainment, everyone shared their talents. That's me. So while peace is not common, we still see war everywhere. Israel, Palestine, India, Pakistan, Afghanistan, Iraq. But there is hope. There is hope when the world's most influential leaders like Barack Obama make efforts towards peace by addressing the Muslim world in Egypt, and he also addresses the Jewish world. There is hope when people like Nelson Mandela helped end the country's apartheid system of racial segregation, both Nobel Peace Prize winners. What can we do about this? We're all just people, you and me. Some are able to go to these conferences and be a part of these important discussions, and others aren't. Some people work in government or are involved politically and can influence in policy making. Back in 2000, when Pope John Paul was in Toronto for World Youth Day, I had the wonderful opportunity of organizing the Catholic-Muslim Youth Interfaith discussion. And this is where it all began for me, as it gave me much satisfaction and encouragement that peaceful dialogue is possible. Since then, I have been working with various youth and adults in interfaith discussions with churches, synagogues across the GTA, which have been well received by all who participated. Last year was the first twinning event with mosques and synagogues around the world. The Prince of Jordan had endorsed and encouraged this. Many mosques, like Isna and Nur Center, were a part of this. After years of this, I decided to visit Israel. This was before the Gaza war. While there, it was difficult to engage or be a part of discussions. Israel is in a state of war. No Israeli wants to have cordial dialogue with Muslims, especially visible Muslims, and vice versa. The situation there was quite hostile. I had visited the Jewish sites, the Wailing Wall. I prayed at the wall, and I wished for peace between these two people of Abraham. They indeed were cousins at war with each other, and I thought, why can't there be resolve? Why can't we do more to bring about peace? Why can't there be some middle ground? And the reality is, we can't all be world leaders, and most of us can't influence world leaders directly. But we can be grassroots leaders. We can bring about hope, and we can bring about change. Steve Holt, who's not here today, founder of Shalom Salam Toronto, decided that it was time for Canadians who wish for peace in the Middle East came together to discuss solutions towards peace. And I immediately jumped on board with him when I heard of this initiative. And this was before the war started. It's easy to talk about peace when it doesn't really affect you directly. After the Gaza war had started, I had to rethink the whole initiative of peace, though. I was there, and I saw how it was. I was shattered, I was distraught. The war brought about a deep depression in me, and I didn't know how I was going to bring myself to discuss peace when I was utterly disheartened. Yet I decided to go ahead with this initiative. I shared some of my hurt and my pain with the group who sat there. I think I even cried as I did throughout the war. And I shared with the group how much I wanted peace, even though my outlook was dim and gloomy at that time. And then I heard stories from the other Jewish members and how they too hoped for peace, and they shared their stories. I happened to be the only Muslim there. And this is how we began. Sharing food, sharing stories, sharing ideas. We didn't debate. We didn't point fingers. We just kept the end goal in mind. These are some of our Shalom Salam events, interactions, month after month. Movie nights, discussions. And we've become a family, actually. And there are other Shalom Salams, one at York, which Hannah is a part of, Shalom Salam York, SSY, one in Montreal, New York, DC. This movement began in Harvard back in the 90s, and I believe even further back in the 60s from my recent discussion with Kathy. And since then, many cities, universities, colleges have adopted the idea of peace between Jews and Muslims. If you haven't noticed already, there is also a wall of compassion, which is a part of Charter of Compassion, which you should sign and put some symbol on. And Kathy Khadija Mustafa has a media and faith initiative as well. some of the pioneers of our community who've been role models, as well as Mr. Khadija. So thank you very much for being our role models. This guy is Preston Manning. Navigating the Political Faith Interface is the national initiative that I've been a part of, led by Preston Manning. This initiative held discussions with individual faith groups, Christian, Muslim, Jewish, Sikh, and after discussions came up with a workbook on how to discuss faith in communities with politics. Later, this initiative brought all of those faiths together in an all-day workshop in Ottawa with Stephen Harper in attendance. But you don't have to be politically involved to voice an opinion. You're all able to do that from your homes, offices, schools. Solomon and I have been fortunate enough to be politically involved too, and so earlier in the year we've had the unique opportunity to voice our opinion on some foreign policy and statements we had disagreed on. But anyone can call your local MPs. It's just a matter of picking up the phone and calling. When you call, one person actually represents 100 voices. These MPs know that for each person who calls, there are 100 more people who represent the same opinion. You can also write to your newspaper's editorial columns. And you can be a part of peace rallies. Don't underestimate these. Even when you don't see the results, by being part of peace rallies, don't stop going. Don't stop giving up on peace. It is easy to be wary about peace and skeptical if it will ever happen, but in being optimistic about it, one participant at CO said it best. Before you begin working towards a goal, you must begin by first dreaming about it. So I end by saying never stop dreaming, because we all can, if nothing else, start dreaming about peace. Thank you.